Hello, everyone. My name is Abigail Platero, and today I will be going over my summer 2021 acre project, Deaccessioning for Diversity within the Freedman Gallery, which I had the absolute honor and pleasure of working with Professor David Tanner on over the course of the summer. So some useful terms that I will be using pretty frequently throughout this presentation are as follows. We have accessioning, which is the formal act of legally accepting an object or objects into the museum's permanent collection. Deaccessioning, which would be the opposite of that, so the process of removing an item from a museum's permanent collection. And lastly, provenance, a record of ownership of a work of art or an antique. So before getting into the goals, I'd like to provide a little bit of context regarding this research. So the deaccessioning process has long been a controversial topic. In examining prominent institutions and their collections, I noticed that there was a lack of diversity, and that this lack runs rampant through institutions both big and small. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to turn that critical lens onto the Freedman Gallery and see how we stacked up, so to speak. So we wanted to collect data in order to clarify the state of our collection. That way we could take the proper steps and address any lacks of inclusivity that we saw, and we can begin the deaccessioning process. So going back to the goals, we will do this by researching all of the artists within the Freedman Gallery's possession, collecting data on artist diversity using diversity indicators, and lastly, beginning the deaccessioning process based off of that research and data collected. So the Acre Research Project was a twofold project with some aspects overlapping and happening in tandem. So the primary component was the artist research, which would give clarity to the state of our collection. So what I went ahead and did was I created an online fillable PDF form, and I fine-tuned through lots of trial and error in order to accurately and consistently document all of the data. That way all of it looked the same and it was easy to import and export information. What I also went ahead and did was I created a Microsoft form. That way I could go ahead and input all of that data and it would beautifully export it all onto Excel sheets. That way we had it in multiple forms. So artist research consisted of online research from various sources, including but not limited to articles, artist websites, and databases from other institutions. When possible, what I went ahead and did was I contacted the artists themselves, family members, spouses, agents, representatives. That way we could verify any information given to us, and we could also correct it if need be. So as you see, this is exactly what we saw in the previous slide, just in a form type of setting. That way everything could be streamlined and all of the data could be collected in the same way. So once the data was exported to an Excel sheet for future reference, and we made sure that all of it was consistent and accurate, we then compared the works of the artists that we were researching to the ones within our gallery using our image database. Once again, just verifying and making sure that we had the right person and the right information. So out of the 471 artists within our collection, only a quarter of them have been researched thus far, meaning that our current results are subject to change as our research continues. So the numbers that we see now may worsen, they may get better, only time will tell. So as we can see from the image on the left, we have a good majority of our artists that are from New York, a decent amount from Italy. When it comes to gender, as you can see, we are very male dominated. So we are not 50-50. Once again, very male dominated. When it comes to race, a lot of our artists are white, with a very, very low quantity of them being any other race. When we're looking at ethnicity, we see a lot of our artists are not of Hispanic or Latino descent. Moving on, nationality, a vast majority, 43% of our artists are American. When it comes to religious affiliations, given that a lot of artists don't necessarily connect their work to their religious affiliations, we see that a vast majority of them are unknown. However, we do have a small population of Jewish artists within our collection. When looking at political affiliations, the same issue happened. A lot of the information was unknown, but we do have 1% of our artists being Democrat. And lastly, for sexual orientation, the vast majority of our artists are heterosexual, with also a good majority of the population of our artists, their sexualities being unknown. So the secondary component of the research was the hands-on process of looking at duplicate prints within our collection and beginning to create a series of prints that would be recommended for deaccessioning based on a variety of factors, aka the deaccessioning process. So here's a picture of our process. So what we would do is we would lay out all of the duplicate works. Me, Professor David Tanner, as well as our registrar, Kate Mishricky, would all kind of sit there, look at the pieces, take notes. We took notes on things including any tears within the paper, any fading of the pigments, any mistakes or misprints, any paper discoloration, also known as foxing, and just a lot of other things in order to decide which pieces we would want to keep for the collection itself and which ones we would want to send out for deaccessioning, or which ones we would recommend to be deaccessioned. So over here, this is just us checking for provenance. So what Kate Mishricky would do was once we decided on the piece that we would suggest for deaccessioning, she would make sure that we had provenance on that piece. That way when we do go to suggest it, we can show proof of ownership, and that way it's good to either sell or swap with another institution. So that's that provenance coming into play once again. So why is this important? Regardless of how heavily skewed the collection is, it's a clear wake-up call for the Freedman Gallery to correct these wrongs. And why is it that we want to correct these wrongs? It's because museums are at the forefront of a lot of issues. The Freedman Gallery itself does a lot of fantastic exhibitions, just showcasing a whole host of artists, but our collection isn't reflective of that whatsoever, at least so far. So there have been decades worth of trial and error when it comes to the deaccessioning process. There's a lot that can go wrong and with varying results. And also it's just a code of ethics. We want to make sure that we are representing the populations that surround us and the populations that we serve. And right now it's clear that our collection is not doing that. So where do we go from here? So this project is still in its data collection phase, and we hope to be able to apply the deaccessioning concepts we have learned from other realms of our collection onto paintings and other mediums. So once that's completed and the entire collection has been reviewed, we will then take our list of suggested works to be deaccessioned and presented to the Albright College's board in order to be reviewed. Hopefully we'll have a solidified collection of works to be deaccessioned, and we hope to either sell or swap these pieces over the course of multiple years. So in tandem with selling and swapping pieces, we also hope to implement strategic purchasing in our accessioning practices. And lastly, in the accessioning of new works, we hope to correct the errors of our predecessors and document the entire process to act as a case study and a guide for other institutions, and we hope to present this and share this information at local and national conferences. So I would like to give a special thanks to the ACRE program for allowing me to do this research. A special thanks to Professor David Tanner for working so wonderfully with me and for allowing me to explore a whole host of ideas and kind of really make this research my own. And lastly, for Kate Mishricky for answering all of my questions, giving me a lot of great feedback and a lot of great information. A lot of it I could not have done without her. So special thanks to all of those. Here is my works cited. And thank you for your time and attention. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, I'd love to hear about them. So thank you once again.